And that was the tragic on-set accident that had B-movie action star Wolf Jackson sent to the netherworld alongside Beetlejuice. Jesse Shade here for Awfully Good Movies on behalf of the JoBlo YouTube network. And Keanu Reeves sure seems to have a healthy case of sequelitis in his career these days. Whether it's his voice work for Toy Story 4 or Sonic the Hedgehog 3, or returning to the roles of Neo, Ted Logan, and of course, John Wick. But back in 1997, Keanu refused to return for a sequel to his mega hit action classic Speed, where Sandra Bullock was instead romantically paired off with Jason Patric as yet another hotshot LAPD detective, forced to stop yet another madman terrorist from hijacking yet another means of transportation. In this case, a Bahamas-bound cruise ship being hijacked by a pre-Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe. So if the rumors of Keanu and Sandra reuniting for Speed 3 are true, let's hope the results are far more suspenseful and way less laughable than Speed 2 Cruise Control in this Wired to Explode episode of Awfully Good Movies. Just because the coronavirus has ground this year's summer movie season to a halt doesn't mean that Awfully Good Movies can't keep entertaining all you housebound audiences out there, which is why we're proud to bring you the Awfully 90s Summer, a series of reviews running from May through August focusing on bad movies which came out during the far simpler and more radical time of the 1990s. Because as much great movies, music, and TV came out of that decade, the initial thrill of 90s nostalgia can fade away quickly if you don't have a good product on your hands. For example, seeing the cast of Mystery Science Theater 3000 riffing on a movie live in Nashville and getting to meet them in person, fucking awesome. But seeing Puddle of Mud covering a classic Nirvana song, fucking awful. And what better way to illustrate the limits of 90s nostalgia than by revisiting one of the worst sequels ever made to one of the best action movies of the 90s, with Speed 2 Cruise Control. When famed cinematographer Jan de Bont made his directorial debut with Speed in 1994, about a hotshot SWAT officer facing off against a disgruntled madman who's armed a city bus to explode if it goes under a speed of 50 miles an hour, it not only proved successful with critics and audiences, but also certified its lead cast members Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock as bona fide movie stars, and merited many pop culture references in the decades to come.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
And although Speed was intended to be a one-time story with no sequel potential, that did not stop 20th Century Fox from announcing a sequel right after the film blew up the box office in its first week of release, with the sequel switching its focus from a hijacked bus on the LA freeway to a hijacked cruise ship out on the high seas. But despite a projected $12 million payday, Keanu Reeves decided to turn down Speed 2 upon his dissatisfaction with the script, and his exhaustion with action movies after finishing filming on Chain Reaction, while Sandra Bullock only agreed to do the sequel after Fox promised to fund her romantic drama Hope Floats, with her character Annie now dating a new LAPD officer as played by Jason Patric, damn it! And while Speed 2 also opened at number 1 on its first week at the box office, the reviews were fairly damn far from enthusiastic, and the movie's box office quickly dropped down over the next few weeks to end up as one of the biggest box office bombs of all time, as well as being ranked by many critics as one of the worst sequels ever made. But as someone who loved the hell out of the first Speed as a kid and still loves it as an adult, I'll see for myself if Cruise Control deserves its unsavory reputation. After all, the poster shows us that it got at least one positive reception from none other than Siskel and Ebert. In fact, Roger Ebert gave Speed 2 the same rating that he gave to The Godfather Part 2. Hell, Roger should have put that shit on his tombstone. That would have been baller as fuck. Yes, I'm aware that Roger Ebert later gave The Godfather Part 2 a new rating of 4 stars, so please don't yell at me in the comments. Pop quiz, hotshots. There's a bomb on a 12-pack of beer. If you drink under 2 beers an hour, it'll explode. What do you do?
What do you do?
Well, then you get ready for the ultimate rush hour known as the Awfully Good Drinking Game. Take a double shot as we open with Sandra Bullock reprising the role of Annie Porter, who we see taking a driving test with a befuddled driving instructor played by the late great Tim Conway, and explaining what happened with her now absent cop boyfriend Jack Traven since the end of the first Speed.
My last boyfriend, Jack, wasn't exactly the romantic type. 2 years ago, for my birthday, he gives me pepper spray. I think it's perfume. I end up in the emergency room.
But what she didn't mention was that Keanu is now out on a killing rampage at the pepper spray manufacturing plant to get revenge on them for making John Wick lose yet another love of his life. Oh wait, sorry, I'm thinking about far better sequels to Keanu movies. Let's get back to Speed 2 to find out about Annie's new boyfriend for this sequel named Alex Shaw, played by Jason Patric, whom Annie met on the beach while Alex was working as a bicycle cop.
Your boyfriend drive like this?
Oh, Alex, no. He works at, beach patrol. He spends all day on a bicycle in Venice. I'm sure he's on the beach right now.
But it appears that Alex didn't tell her that he, much like Annie's last boyfriend, is actually a member of the Los Angeles SWAT team, who even works under Keanu's boss from the last movie, Mac, played here again in a brief cameo by Joe Morton. And as Alex chases down a laundry truck filled with stolen computers, which are clearly just empty boxes with broken glass sound effects played over them, Annie is about to cross paths with him as some cops tail her in the midst of her disastrous driving test. And when Annie crashes her car in the midst of Alex's crime scene,
oh, SpongeBob, why?
She happens to find out her boyfriend's big secret.
Why weren't you at the beach?
You know, it's funny, there's this perfectly reasonable explanation.
You're a
for why-
madman, sure?
How'd the driving test go?
Oh,
Well, thanks for bringing some much-needed wackiness to our movie, Tim Conway. Can't wait to see you next teaming up with John McClane in A Good Day to Dorf Hard. But as Annie is pissed to find that she's dating yet another hotshot cop from the SWAT team, Alex smooths things over with her by revealing that he's bought the two of them some tickets for a romantic getaway aboard a Caribbean-bound cruise line.
You can't just pull out tickets to some exotic island and think that's gonna make everything okay. Do you have a concussion? We work 6 days a week, Alex. Never even been away for a weekend.
That's okay, honey. All you have to do is ask your boss for some 2 weeks notice. And as Alex and Annie head out the next day to board the Seabourn Legend cruise liner, we find out that Alex is stashing a ring in his pocket so that he can eventually pop the big question to his girlfriend.
I don't know why, but all of a sudden I have love boat fever. It feels really good.
Unfortunately, Annie's case of love boat fever was later confirmed to be the coronavirus. And well, we all know how that story unfolded from there. Speed 3, Quarantine Control. But before Alex and Annie can get themselves into a romantic mood, they must first meet their fellow cruise passengers as made up of the finest disaster movie stereotypes that money can buy. There's the blonde woman who runs a diet program,
So you see, we at Fat Busters, we say fat is your friend.
despite ironically being married to an obnoxious fat guy.
Your body's just a giant computer.
There's the two annoying redhead sisters, whom we're supposed to care about when they get separated from each other.
I want to see my sister.
There's the annoying comic relief bellboy, who shockingly isn't played by Reb Schneider. There's the flighty cruise director who looks and sounds like Carol Kane.
I'm Liza, your cruise director.
There's the black guy,
And the name's Dante.
who's always taking pictures on his camera like that Asian tourist from Gremlins 2. And who could forget the deaf teenage girl whose overprotective parents won't allow her to grow up.
That dress is not appropriate. You look like a clown.
Sorry.
And yes, this young actress is actually deaf in real life, and after hearing the terrible dialogue in this movie,
I think you're gonna make it beautiful, Mother. Just don't drive the carpool.
I'm frankly starting to envy her. And let's not forget the wide array of musical entertainment on this cruise. We've got the Baja Men's less successful nephews, the Baja Boys to Men. We've got Tony Braxton's less successful cousin, Eunice Braxton. And we've even got UB40. And yes, that actually is UB40, but no, they do not play Red Red Wine. And for that alone, I hope that the movie's villain ends up killing them first. Speaking of our villain, since Dennis Hopper's headless corpse can't come back to hijack this ship, our sequel now has a new bad guy, as played here by another actor also known for playing a creepy psycho in a David Lynch movie, the one and only Willem Dafoe. in the role of John Geiger, a former cyber employee of the cruise company who plots to get back at the bastards who fired him by pretending to drunkenly stagger into the captain's quarters and placing a receiver underneath the control panel so that he can now control the ship from behind his computer display. And it's here we get to meet our ship's crew, as made up of First Officer Django Fett, the ship's navigator, Scottish guy whom Simon Pegg probably beat for the role of Scotty.
We're losing power all over the ship. I don't care!
I'm giving her all she's got, Captain.
And Captain Pollard, played here by future Tarantino favorite Bo Svensson, who is sadly the first victim of Geiger's vengeful wrath.
I spent a great many years developing computer systems for these cruise lines, including this baby. And then I got tossed away.
What are you talking about?
That's what really infuriates me. You don't even know what I'm talking about. How dare you!
And the worst part of all is that you weren't fond of me lobster! Off the plank with you scurvy dog! So while Geiger prepares to hijack the ship, Alex ends up chickening out right before he asks for Annie's hand in marriage, and the two lovebirds are forced to reconsider their relationship.
If you look at it, I mean, we basically don't even know each other to make that kind of commitment. I mean, it's probably the last thing that we both need right now, right?
Oh, come now, Annie. How can you doubt your love when you two have such explosive on-screen chemistry with each other?
Attention, if you would like to reserve water skis, paddle boats, jet skis.
Move over, Keanu. Now that is what I call breathtaking. But right as Alex tries proposing to Annie once again out on the ship's dance floor, their romantic rendezvous is interrupted by a sudden jolt in the ship when Geiger hacks into the boat's engine room and brings the propeller to a halt, and then informs First Officer Giuliano over the phone that he's now in control of the Seaborn Legend, which he demonstrates by blowing up the ship's power stations with the power of his explosive lighthouse farts.
I'd like you to look at the emergency fire display. What the hell do you think you're doing? My God. Goddamn farts! Oops.
So as Geiger orders Giuliano to evacuate the passengers off the ship in the next 15 minutes,
Or I'll burn her down.
Alex heads back onto the ship when he suspects something fishy about the smoke coming out of the air vents.
This is definitely a sulfur-based smoke, which makes no sense whatsoever.
But the 15 minutes run out, and Geiger starts the ship back up before the last lifeboat of passengers is able to detach from the ship. So now it's up to Alex to save the endangered lifeboat. And you remember that last movie when that old lady tried jumping off the bus prematurely and Dennis Hopper blew her up? Well, this time the deaf girl's mother tries jumping off the lifeboat prematurely and tips the lifeboat over, which takes the lives of 2 innocent passengers.
Oh, sweetheart, it's not your fault.
Thankfully, one of those passengers was the lead singer of UB40, so it's not all that big of a loss. And after Annie helps Alex get the passengers back onto the deck of the cruise ship, Alex joins the rest of the ship's crew to figure out the hidden identity of the ship's terrorist, in the same manner that Batman and Robin used to solve the Riddler's riddles on the 60s Batman show.
Fires don't exist. Smoke canisters, stun grenades. Probably put them in the air ducts. They're small, they roll like these. Golf balls. Golf balls, golf balls.
My golf clubs, have you found them?
Geiger.
Holy harpoons, Jason Patrick, you're right! Quick, to the Patrick Mobile! How appropriate, though, because Willem Dafoe's character here somehow manages to feel more like a comic book villain than when he played the Green Goblin. For one thing, Geiger is angry at this cruise company because they fired him after finding out he became terminally ill from all his years working around electromagnetic fields.
Computers generate electromagnetic fields, which over time can cause severe copper poisoning. I'm a smart guy, Alex, and even I know that.
On another note, Geiger tries prolonging his life with the help of some leeches he brings onto the ship with him so that they can suck the copper out of his blood.
They cleaned the copper out of my blood. Doctors gave me a couple of years to live. Those bloodsuckers might give me a few more.
Now, while I'm not exactly sure if leeches are a viable replacement for chemotherapy, I am pretty sure it's at least a better medical treatment than injecting yourself with fucking Lysol. And for those of you who always thought Willem Dafoe should have played the Joker, this movie allows Dafoe plenty of opportunities to show off that signature demented grin of his, which has helped launch 1,000 memes.
Water's gonna be beautiful tonight, ladies.
We're on our way. How do you like your vacation so far?
But while Dafoe gets to have as much fun playing the bad guy as Dennis Hopper did, the two heroes of our film leave a whole lot to be desired. Even though Sandra Bullock manages to get top billing this time around, her character was far more dimensional and sympathetic in the first Speed, while the second Speed whittles her character down to a series of annoyed grunting noises and dead on arrival wisecracks.
I swear I am never leaving the house again. Oh God, I've been in worse situations than this, and panicking does not help, trust me. We can jump off the ship, right?
You get sucked into the propellers, I wouldn't recommend it.
God, that would suck.
It certainly does suck.
But where the most heroic thing that Annie gets to do here is wield a chainsaw, the rest of our action hero duties are handled here by Jason Patric, who may be a technically better actor than Keanu Reeves was. But love him or hate him, Keanu has his own unique brand of charisma which has helped maintain his movie stardom over the past 30 plus years. As for Jason Patric, you can tell that this poor guy was miserable and depressed during the movie's production.
I'd like to boogie with you.
Namely because he only agreed to do this movie after they promised to make major changes to the script, only to arrive on set to find that the script hadn't changed at all. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if all the screenwriters did after Keanu said no was to take the name Jack Traven and replace it with Alex Shaw, because this character has next to no unique characteristics of his own, aside from the fact that this LAPD officer somehow knows more about the inner workings of a cruise ship than the actual crew of the actual ship, and that Willem Dafoe is able to lock him inside of the ship thanks to his handy-dandy power glove. Oh my god, now Geiger is able to control this cruise ship while also being barely able to play Super Mario Brothers at the same time!
You know how much I sacrifice?
And after Annie and Giuliano break Alex out of the burning cruise ship, they discover that Geiger is steering the Seaborn Legend into a nearby oil tanker off the coast of St. Martin. And since Annie can't use her wheel-turning skills again to turn this boat around, it's now up to Alex to swim underneath the ship and slow down the boat's propeller by throwing a metal cable into it, only for Geiger to discover someone is overriding his program and stop our heroes from slowing down the boat.
Let her go. Then you spend the rest of your days in some nice mental hospital, sticking leeches to your ass.
Now that there is a Willem Dafoe face for the ages, my friends. And since Disney owns Fox now, they should use that face to censor nudity on Disney+. Your children will never have sexual urges ever again. But as Geiger makes his getaway with Annie as his hostage, Giuliano and Alex instead try to turn the ship out of harm's way by turning the ship's bow thrusters while the passengers scream in panic.
Oh my god, why don't we stop? Why don't we stop? We're not gonna stop! We're not gonna stop!
It's a cookbook. It's a cookbook.
Penguins can't fly. Penguins can't fly!
And just in time, the boat avoids collision with the oil tanker, with just a mere scratch on both sides of their ships.
I do believe we have a miss!
Impossible! No!
Oh, sorry we dinged your boat there. We'll have to get together later to exchange insurance information! However, that boat collision was merely an appetizer for the epic climax of our film, as the cruise ship is instead going to crash right into the island of St. Martin.
Oh, shit!
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit.
Mom!
Oh, what, the deaf girl doesn't know sign language for oh shit? Now it's this one crash scene alone which cost the movie nearly a quarter of its $100 million budget, with director Jan de Bont having an entire 35-building set built instead of using CGI to make it more realistic for the audience and actors. And as insanely impressive as this scene may be, it is sadly nullified by the stupid plot which surrounds it. The first Speed was suspenseful because there was little time for any bystanders to get out of the way of this fast-moving bus. But this time, the people in this town have plenty of time to notice the 50,000-ton steel behemoth slowly heading their way, and yet act like befuddled morons when the boat crashes into their buildings and boats. Well, at least we can hope that this boat ends up mowing down some moronic spring breakers. Hey bro, who cares about that killer cruise ship? If I get run over, I get run over. And while Jan de Bont has admitted he wanted to make this sequel more of a comedy, his poor attempts at humor end up rubbing uneasily up against all the destruction and death caused by this boat crash.
My car!
Funny, the fat buddy from Billy Madison got his car crushed by a boat anchor. And also, there's been millions of dollars in damage to the lives and livelihoods of this small town, but hey, look at the cute dog! Also, this is probably one of the few times that the alleged star of an action movie has been completely absent during the film's closing action set piece, as Alex now heads off the boat to rescue Annie from the slimy claws of Willem Dafoe. Boy, if only somebody had a boat that he could use to reach her.
Say what?
By Jove, it's none other than Maurice, the poor guy played by Glenn Plummer, whose new car was commandeered by Keanu Reeves in the first movie so he could reach that hijacked bus, who's moved to St. Martin alongside his girlfriend Okoye from Black Panther to have his new boat commandeered by yet another LAPD officer.
You know how many hours of therapy I've had because of you guys? I want a promissory note right now!
For the love of ass, it would have made more sense to have a cameo from the Force Ghost of Jeff Daniels. So with Maurice's help, Alex rescues Annie just before she's about to take off in a seaplane piloted by Geiger. And while our heroes detach from the plane on one of its floats, Geiger ends up crashing the plane into the foremast of the oil tanker. And Willem Dafoe exits the film in appropriately ridiculous fashion. You may have won this time, but I'll be back to defeat you, Spider-Man! Or I mean, Aquaman? Or I mean, Ephraim Winslow? And even though both Alex and Annie repeat that line from the first movie about relationships based on extreme circumstances,
Relationships based on extreme circumstances never work out.
Relationships based on extreme circumstances, they rarely work out.
they decide to celebrate their survival by finally agreeing to marry each other.
Can I make all the travel plans from now on?
Deal.
And thus marks the end of our story, aside from an end credit stinger which shows Annie once again taking the driving test with Tim Conway, because at least this is a less embarrassing cameo from a Carol Burnett Show cast member than Harvey Korman in the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Sorry, Mr. Hedge, but that bus was going way too fast.
You know, the only way that joke would have paid off is if we had found out that Keanu was driving that bus, as Duke Kaboom.
Kaboom.
Funnily enough, Cruise Control was originally supposed to come out just 1 month before the release of James Cameron's Titanic. And while Titanic was delayed to December to end up as the biggest movie of the decade, Speed 2 ended up being the worst thing to happen to the genre of boat disaster movies until the Poseidon Adventure remake. Sure, the movie is not without its unintentionally funny pleasures, especially with Willem Dafoe camping up a storm as our bad guy. But when compared to its genuinely entertaining and thrilling predecessor, Speed 2 is merely a laughable mess that isn't far from Sandra Bullock's assessment of it as being the biggest piece of crap ever made. However, since this movie script was originally written as the third Die Hard movie, then maybe there's some money to be made from merging these two defunct franchises into one. Come on, Fox, time to do your Disney daddies proud. Hashtag make that Mickey money. And on the nudity watch, this movie does have some bikini-clad Sandra Bullock to offset the sight of a shirtless Willem Dafoe. But it also has some weird sexualization of the teenage deaf girl character, who inexplicably asks Alex if he'd like to get with her after he saves her life.
You want me to know that you love me and that you're gonna be 15 next month?
But no, I'm probably thinking way too hard about this. It's not like the movie shows any clips from Stanley Kubrick's Lolita to underline these sexual teenage overtones, right?
I do all the housework. Who does the tidying up?
Alright, Jan de Bont, drop those wine coolers and have a seat right over there. And tell us what you were thinking with that shitty Haunting remake. On the enjoyableness continuum scale from Bull to Bruce, Speed 2 Cruise Control might have been seen as a better movie had they instead subtitled it The Boat That Couldn't Slow Down, and jumps a bus over an uncompleted freeway to land on a 6 out of 10. I'm thankful that this movie's failure stopped Jan de Bont before he went ahead with Twister 2, The Wrath of Carrie Elways. I'm Jesse Shade for JoBlo.com, and before I get cracking on my next Awfully 90s summer review, I'm gonna finish editing my final cut of Speed 3, which granted is just a re-edited version of The Lake House with more explosions, but still a far better sequel than Speed 2.
Whoa.
How can this happen on our honeymoon?
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.